Hi everybody, welcome back to Year 9 videos to help you prepare for your upcoming assessment. We're going to talk about how stuff gets in and out of cells, and the first process we're going to look at is diffusion. So you need to recall that diffusion is how substances move from where there's more of them to where there's less of them. In other words, from a higher concentration of molecules to a lower concentration of molecules. And in cells, that process of diffusion would happen through a membrane, which is what these brown dotted line on this diagram represents here. So if a material can pass through a cell membrane, then it will move in the direction towards fewer molecules, or you can say diffusion happens down the diffusion gradient from a higher concentration to a lower concentration. The bigger the difference in that concentration, the faster diffusion will happen, and diffusion will stop happening if the concentration of molecules becomes equal on each side of the membrane. All living things are adapted in order to be able to get materials in and out of their cells as fast as possible, and that means being adapted to be efficient at doing diffusion. So some examples you can see here. You can see in this diagram an alveolus, which is one of the many air sacs inside your lungs, giving your lungs a large surface area for oxygen to diffuse into your red blood cells and carbon dioxide to diffuse out of your blood so you can breathe it out. This diagram represents the wall of your small intestine, which is folded many times into structures called villi. And again, their job is to increase surface area so materials can move from your intestines into your blood, for example, glucose. Plants are also adapted to be good at transporting substances and moving them from place to place. In this diagram, you're looking at a cross-section through a leaf, and gases can enter and leave the leaf through these holes that are called stomata, and you can see that the inside of the leaf is spongy on the whole in this central part here, and those spaces allow a larger more space for air to circulate, more surface area for oxygen and carbon dioxide to diffuse to where they're needed. So to sum up, remember that diffusion is how particles move from more concentrated to less. Some examples: in your lungs, the oxygen you breathe in from the air will diffuse into your red blood cells in your lungs because there's a higher concentration in the air than there is in the blood that's coming back to your lungs. The opposite will happen to carbon dioxide. The carbon dioxide is at a higher concentration in your blood plasma, and it will diffuse out of your blood and into the alveoli so you can breathe out. When you eat food and digest it, glucose, amino acids, fatty acids, for example, will diffuse from where there's a higher concentration of them in your small intestine through the wall of your intestine and into your blood. And we know that on a sunny day, overall, carbon dioxide will be diffusing into leaf cells so they can do photosynthesis. They'll be making oxygen, and the oxygen will diffuse out of the cells and back into the air. Finally, remember that those structures in your body and in the leaf are adapted to be good at diffusion by having a large surface area, by having thin and moist cell membranes, and in animals by having a really good blood supply. That means lots of tiny capillaries to carry blood to these organs.